Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us to celebrate the late Holly Prado's birthday with a reading of her poetry. Holly was born on May 2nd, 1938 in Lincoln, Nebraska, and died on June 14, 2019 at West Hills Hospital. I love Holly with all my heart, and I miss her every minute of the day. In a documentary, Behind the Silver Screen, made by MPTF's Channel 22, Holly said, "I love writing. It's the deepest pleasure I know." Holly taught for 51 years at Marshall High in her home, our home, USC. She loved most to work at home. Holly had 13 books published, one, Weather, her last, published posthumously by Cahuenga Press. She loved the writers she worked with. Each reader today had a singular, loving relationship with her. The poets, writers, teachers, artists, friends who are reading today are, in order of appearance, Alison Townsend, Barbara Crane, Judy Oberlander, Phoebe MacAdams, Marie Powell Brown, Cecilia Woloch, James Cushing, Sidney Higgins, Richard Heller, Olivia Sanchez-Brown. Here's Alison Townsend.
I'm so pleased and honored to be here with all of you today, honoring our beloved Holly and the lasting legacy of her writing and her spirit. Is this sound okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to read 3 poems by Holly. The first one is the tall upheaving one, which I read at her beautiful memorial at MPTF, and it's a poem that has always intrigued me and stayed with me and continues to stay with me. I think it's both an ars poetica, and I also think it's a credo. It's a credo poem. And whenever I'm feeling unsure of myself with poetry, I go read this poem. The tall upheaving one. The cypress that I pray to, it can fly. Nothing is a single species. We're made of bark, then avalanche. Orpheus can make us anything, can make us God's own door. Cypress or oak or black. To be accepted there across the boundary, as when I leave the house this morning walking, nothing painful in my legs. I tell misunderstanding, this is our last year together. Then I see just up the street that planets are our bodies. Their mouths slam through my wrists. I was a child who practiced jumping from the top of anything right into the air. Music was a swirl of vines and leaves that left my throat. I'm calling and I'm calling and I'm called to. This black, the pure unknown which finds its way exactly like the song you can't get rid of, the one I start with now and won't give up. The God, obsessed with worship that is memorized, abiding, until the prayer itself moves inside out, converts these worlds of sliding rock to fragrance. I'm calling, and I'm calling, and I'm called. Then 2 short poems, Esperanza from the same book. Esperanza. I remember the night when we pulled at our roots, when we drank all the water, then sang. We were beautiful trees. We were roads to the next simple town. They had waited for us, both the people and stars. We were made into hymns. Nobody wrote them, but no one forgot. And then we weren't trees anymore. We were families of sparks. You'll be next. You will be you, and then not. And the last poem, another short poem from Specific Mysteries. My copy of this book is falling apart. comes near the end of the book. It has an epigraph for the women I love, our life together. We are always daughters, our mother's dead, young and younger than we will ever be. How can I break the skin with words? Forest and ocean, dream it. That's the only definition. Mother at our own breasts, these islands, their lamps full of oil. The daughter listens. Slow, slow, generously slow music.
Thank you, Harry, for inviting me to read on Holly's birthday. I'm going to read 3 pieces. The first is The Solstice Calendar for Harry Northup. As in the root, a call to more creation, these lovely things, arms stretching, and the storyteller's mouth, ever open, ever telling us, the sage to burn, to be a natural goodwill, empties artificial breath and opens up the house. Here come our friends, in spirit moves, that solemn gardener, the widow armed with lemons, a couple married 50 years, blooms and ghosts, and me unconventionally grown, but whispering love's arguments for fireplaces, chattering little bells, bells for the familiar, the story meant to free us. Isn't it absolutely love? No, nothing all that simple, as herbs fill with their own releasing smoke. There is too this night month and its power of unlit sky. Cold, some memories and plenty of real regret. You and I will die before we're married 50 years. We found each other late, the sad fact alive in every wrist, using up its beats. Love star, make us grateful anyway. Make the new year shine its eyes right on our door, and in the root or bulb, as in the tulips which have promised to be red, the present strong emotion. The sky breaks through to sun, uncautious sun, returning, glues us to this earth. Goodwill, good stories, the garden inching taller. Holly wrote 3 novels in the 1980s and 1990s. Her first novel, Gardens, was published by Harcourt Brace Jovanovich in 1985. The beach at Venice, far from Silver Lake and Echo Park, is empty except for a few winos who have settled on the sand to sleep and for the sound of the tide pulled by the moon in Scorpio. The poets Sheila admires rest in their apartments, dreaming of the ocean, of sea life emerging from the deepest part of the psyche. One dreams himself in the center of the ocean, held and supported by the water. Death and sleep, moving apart, leave the beach to the coming light. Kate dreams that a 20-year-old is dying. The young woman has Kate's hair, fine and wheat-colored, which she crops shorter and shorter. As she dies, she cuts away all that she's believed in. Kate watches her, grieving, then shifts in bed as Alex turns to his own dream, a wall that he has to climb, though he resents its bricks, its solid facade, the lack of toe holds or a stairway to make the climb easier. The wall is too high for him. They won't remember these dreams. They will wake up thinking only of cleaning the house and starting over, if it is possible to begin in the middle of things. And finally, Cahuenga Press published Esperanza, Poems for Orpheus, in 1998. It's the same poem that Alison chose to read. And it's the one I love best of all the thousands of poems I think I've read written by Holly. It's the one I still love the best. Esperanza. I remember the night when we pulled at our roots, when we drank all the water, then sang. We were beautiful trees. We were roads to the next simple town. They had waited for us, both the people and stars. We were made into hymns. Nobody wrote them, but no one forgot. And then we weren't trees anymore. We were families of sparks. You will be next. You will be you, and then not.
One of the things I could never get over about Holly was how much she loved Los Angeles. And I think I finally figured it out. As much as I love where I live, I could never get over the mountains, the ocean. I think Holly could never get over the beauty that she saw in Los Angeles. And I found some of that in a poem called Arrival. I'm just going to read some pieces from that. Los Angeles, Los Angeles. Cactus, succulents, and wild tobacco. Jimson weed. Newly arrived, I learn these plants that promise danger or know how to hold their nourishment a good long time. I am a virgin, loving uncompanioned walks. Summer, to be 22 years old, there's nothing better than the dry, unbruising air, inhaling night and cool and jasmine, thinking how to say a couple of things in Spanish. I came by miracle. I came the minute just a month ago I finished college. I came by car, singing all the way. I'm here. My rented house is just a room, and then another room, and then a bathroom in a city built on air. Los Angeles, the angels as its temperament, completely unfamiliar, just like heaven. What's above us and beyond, but not a fantasy, because the strangest stuff is real. Los Angeles, incomprehensible, and yet I know it in a breath. Its immorality is this: everything stands visible. Such jam-thick salad dressings, different colors. They're chartreuse, ivory, with blue cheese thickly mixed around. Within a year, I'll like the taste of scotch. But in July and August 1960, I can only love big salads and folk guitars at Positanos up that coast. Oh, endless coast. The coffee house where people play my kind of music. Some nights, somebody will drive us to the hills above the Sunset Strip, through streets that crowd themselves up to the highest spot. And when there isn't room to turn another time without a plunge, here comes the vibrant, sparkled, fabuloso city lights below, spread into patterns infinite, inhuman, wonderful. The brazen, holy, hedonistic city, thoroughly embedded in itself. Simple electricity enhanced by zillions. This is where I've come. The marveled lights, an ocean of their own, give me fast ideas about mortality. Live and hurry up. Divinity will come and go, can easily go dark. The switch flipped off, and yet recurs. And the other poem I'm going to read is one I really love because it's so Holly. It's like she could take something every day and turn it into something profound. Harry, you open the cupboard door and I bang my head. I'm tired. I'm chilly. I just want a cup of coffee. You want coffee too. While I'm trying to make my own coffee, you're trying to get sugar for your coffee out of the cupboard. Ouch, ouch, ouch. The cupboard door is wood and it's wide. I don't expect it to be open. So I hurt my ear and the side of my head when I collide with it, not looking, which I blame you for, but I don't say anything except ouch, ouch. I go into the study, sit in my rocking chair, start to cry because I'm tired, because you crowded into the kitchen. You come into the study where I sit holding my ear, which still hurts. I'm sorry, you say. I should have warned you. I should have told you the cupboard was open. I want to get self-righteously mad. even though it wasn't really your fault. It was mine for not seeing the door was open. I want to make a fuss because I'm tired, because things hurt so often, which isn't your fault, but the fault of life, plain old life, which I bang into all of the time. I fear the worst, like the possibility a month ago when you had an unidentified mass in your stomach. When your doctor ordered a CT scan, what could we think except cancer? A deadly, alien, awful something or other. It turned out to be nothing, blessedly, nothing. But it could have been, might have been, possibly, and potentially was. Harry, we're in our 60s. We're healthy. We're lucky. My ear stops hurting. It's Sunday with 2 major football games for you to watch on TV. I have puttery things to do around the house. Everything is fine. On the wall behind my back, here in the study, I've taped a photograph of 4 Guatemalan women in brightly patterned skirts and blouses. 3 balance big rocks on their heads as they walk along the street. How do they do this? Wear such beautiful colors and carry such large burdens. I remind myself that banging my head on an open kitchen cupboard door is nothing. What matters, Harry, is this. You didn't mean to hurt me, and I kept my mouth shut. Not getting angry is a spiritual task I practice when I can. This morning I managed it, carried the weight, held on to blame. It's nothing to be especially proud of, but I am a little. We have peace now, which Sunday should remind us to work at, us Christians. Let the cupboard door be a prayer, then, for what we've got, pain, which turns out to be nothing, blessedly nothing but peace. Thanks, Gary, for letting me read.
I'm also going to read one that Alison read. Alison, you set us on a path. But I'm going to start with one from O Salt, O Desiring Hand. And Harry, thank you so much for organizing this wonderful reading. And I feel very honored to be part of it. So thank you. This is called My Career from O Salt, O Desiring Hand. That's Coanga Press 2013. Who would think to make a purple, green, and yellow cat of tin? Somebody who sees the possibilities. Winter, celebration of the light, the nothing palpable. Stars, solstice, myth. But this is a neighborhood where used cars wait on the street to be sold. Somebody needs cash, not decoration. The sign in one car window reads, drives Doog. Somebody shifted the G and the D around. But spelling is the least of this guy's worries. He needs the rent, the food, presents for the holidays. Cat, clipped tin, appealing in that way the Japanese call wabi-sabi, imperfection as potential beauty. I look where I can for teachers. Imperfection is the best one I can find these days. Doog and pounded tin, and my old body falling through the seasons, willing to get even older than it is, tinnier, cheaper, less and less. How can anyone avoid this lesson? Or the peacefulness of looking to the street where all the cars are getting older too. Nobody's asking much, enough to get along. But 3 weeks after winter solstice, 6 a.m., I get myself outside to say good morning to the birds, the newspaper, to winter dark, firm indigo. The fullest moon we've seen this year stands treasure gold above the street. Its light illuminates the cats, their weaknesses, the not great paint jobs and the cracked upholstery, changes them into art. The line of cars, a landscape worthy of Cézanne. I'm rescued once again by possibilities, the world's great natural surprise. Why ask to live forever when tin and moon, my ruined back and hip, a bunch of junky cars can offer everything I need to learn. I'm happy. I'm working at my given job, making a language of our misspelled world.
Mm.
I love it. And this is from Esperanza, Poems for Orpheus, Cahuenga, 1998. And I also love this poem, the tall, upheaving one. The cypress that I pray to, it can fly. Nothing is a single species. We're made of bark, then avalanche. Orpheus can make us anything, can make us God's open door, cypress or oak or black, to be accepted there across the boundary. As when I leave the house this morning, walking, nothing painful in my legs. I tell misunderstanding, this is our last year together. And then I see just up the street that planets are our bodies. Their mouths slam through my wrists. I was a child who practiced jumping from the top of anything right into the air. Music was a swirl of vines and vines that left my throat. I'm calling and I'm waiting and I'm called to. This black, the pure unknown, which finds its way exactly like the song you can't get rid of, the one I start with now and won't give up, the God obsessed with worship that is memorized, abiding, until the prayer itself moves inside one, converts these worlds of sliding rock to fragrance. I'm calling, and I'm calling, and I'm called.
Mm. Hello, thank you, Harry, for inviting me to participate in this birthday celebration for Holly. I will read 4 poems from Esperanza, Poems for Orpheus. One of them, 2 of you have read already. Rilke as door. His chest thrilled, stretched against God's breath. Poetry needs excess. Orpheus finds a man, a woman, fully opened in the spiral cypress tree by wood as flesh. By paper where the tongue licks nothing into word and no thought can stop the pulled and pulling roots from. Shatter, shatter, the wrench of salt, and yet from brief grief, the music. Orpheus kept singing when his body disappeared, like all the ones whose story we forget to tell. He comes as great, incessant breakage. The tall, upheaving one. The cypress that I pray to, it can fly. Nothing is a single species. We're made of bark, then avalanche. Orpheus can make us anything, can make us God's own door. Cypress or oak or black, to be accepted there across the boundary as when I leave the house this morning, walking. Nothing painful in my legs. I tell misunderstanding, this is our last year together. Then I see just up the street that planets are our bodies. Their mouths slam through my wrists. I was a child who practiced jumping from the top of anything right into the air. Music was a swirl of vines and leaves that left my throat. I'm calling, and I'm waiting, and I'm called to. This black, this pure unknown, which finds its way exactly like the song you can't get rid of, the one I start with now and won't give up. The God obsessed with worship that is memorized, abiding until the prayer itself moves inside out, converts these worlds of sliding rock to fragrance. I'm calling, and I'm calling, and I'm called. A test of patience. Our singed hair, how we color the eggs, how we plant them as seeds, how we can't live on memory. The God gives us the word to say next, and then next. Desire strikes desire. A woman hands an orange, a blood orange, and I know when it's opened, I'll see more of my fate, how the eggs fall and die, or how they hatch and matter. One poet can't quite decide which is which, so she's already doomed. Take up the fire. It's the God's frenzied longing that burns through the fruit, tells every fortune as fast as we eat. Nothing more than mourning. Orpheus, your wish is to be free, and yet another wish is to be visible, to have the weight of ghosts. Visitors whose understanding presses us into ourselves and makes us form a little mystery into a breathing child. I dream I'm pregnant. I will give birth to birds. Happy birthday, beloved Holly.
Thank you, Marie, for that beautiful reading. Thank you, Harry, for bringing us together to remember and invoke Holly on this, the 85th anniversary of her birth. She's with me too every day. I shouldn't have been afraid to read something that someone else had already read because I love hearing these poems over and over in different voices. But I've chosen a poem from Word Rituals, which Holly wrote before I ever knew her. So it's wonderful to be able to be with her before I met her. So Word Rituals 12. The word begins in the dark of the body, begins in the first one who ever spoke. The word begins in stooped weather thousands of years ago, the tongue crashing itself against teeth. The word begins in the ancestors who all talk at once in our dreams, who carry language from one country to another. It is cold and many freeze to death, but those who survive, who have the steadiest blood, who have the strongest tongues, carry the word into what they have never seen before. And the word describes, records, worships the new country, the breaking of boundaries. The word begins in standing on green grass. It is a summer evening, it is just getting dark, and the word finds its way out of baby talk into a real word. And the mother hugs the child, and the father nods and urges the child to say it again. And the child feels its feet on the grass, feels the mother and father loving it, feels what it has done is beautiful. As beautiful as the dog with its fur silk, its leg rush, that the child still sees in the yard and has called by name. The word begins in our shoulders, hunched over the first book. A story of an egg falling from a wall, a story of a stolen pig, a story of the leap over the candlestick, the birds flying out of the pie, the silver bells and cockle shells. Later, we discover longer stories of people who move just as our family moves out there in the kitchen, calling us to come to dinner as we sit hunched over the growing knowledge that there is more than one world. We will never again look at any quiet street and believe it's quiet, that there isn't a gnome, an ogre, a wicked queen just behind that shadowy tree, that there isn't a hero, a fairy godmother, a talking horse just behind the fence, behind the shadowy tree. The word begins in what has gathered in the soul of the world long before we were born, and in what is urging us into the next chapter. The word begins in the imagination that hunches over the book and hears the voice of our mothers calling us to come and eat. The imagination which understands dinner will be no more real than the Pawnee Indian we are following on our ponies across the plains. The word begins in wind that rises and speaks through the trees in front of our cave until there is nothing to do but answer. We cannot see who speaks, what face the wind has beyond our fires, our cooking pots, our bone cups, our children huddling in our arms. We cannot see wind, yet it has the voice of someone who wants us to listen. It does not tell us facts about hunting or planting, but tells us how many things in our daily work cannot talk about themselves, yet cooperate with us if we understand their nature, an invisible nature that the wind shows us with a push into the cave, a push which upsets the pots, the cups, that makes the children cry, that makes us look at the one person among us who is listening harder than the others, who seems to hear the word that begins with the wind, who stares into the shattered pots, answers the wind saying, "We will honor these broken pieces and the voices of all that we do not believe we hear. We will give ourselves secret names that can answer you, wind, and you, trees, and you, snow, and you, river, and the ones who have died, those we feel around us when we are quiet. We will be afraid of the voices and will also know they belong to us, since they come to us, since you, wind, still blow, since you make the trees shriek, since you make us other than we were before we heard you." The word begins in the dream I have even now, even this long way from the wind in the cave. My dead grandmother gives me a book of her poems. Poems I know she did not write when she was alive. She does not speak to me as I know speaking, but still urges me loudly to continue to live in awe of language. Holly Prado.
Thank you so much, Harry, for inviting me to this beautiful, beautiful event. And thank you so much, Cecilia, for picking that magnificent sample of Holly's work. We know Holly as a poet, and we know Holly as a workshop leader. And I'm here perhaps to remind us or to inform some of us who didn't know this, that Holly Prado was also a very gifted novelist. And I've got proof. You see this? This is her novel Gardens, published by Harcourt Brace Yovanovitch in 1985. And I'm going to read a portion of it from the first chapter concerning a character named Kate and her mother Audrey, who are in the process of making a one-way journey from the little Midwestern town of Albion to a new life in Los Angeles. And I think this passage gives us yet another sense of of how Holly Prado contributed to and understood the nature of literature and life in this amazing American city. From Gardens by Holly Prado. The train pulled out faster than Kate thought it would. Kate started to cry when she couldn't see the town of Albion, just the spire of the college chapel sticking up through autumn trees. Audrey got out her handkerchief and brushed at the sweater where Kate's tears dampened it. She told her they were on a great adventure. Didn't Kate want to look as pretty as she could for Los Angeles? Their new life, Audrey's phrase, was too new for Kate. She had never seen a palm tree. They lined the streets as if they had some business there, but Kate couldn't imagine any use for them. There were no low branches to climb and no true leaves. No part turned crimson or gold in autumn. When hard winds funneled through the streets, palm fronds would fall, dangerously sharp and heavy. Kate had never heard anything called a frond, a word that escaped her from time to time. She'd think, but palm leaf. But she knew that wasn't right. She would search her mind until she found the word frond. The shift from maples to palms, from brick to stucco, took her a long time. Staring at the pink Spanish-style apartments like the one Audrey had rented made Kate feel that she was play acting. Saying the word frond over and over again made her feel just the same way. Words like that were an act. The Methodist College back in Albion was real. The smell of disinfectant on her father's drugstore counter was real. She went to libraries. They were familiar, at least, and quiet. She needed quiet, although she couldn't have said why. But her body was both empty and weighted with all she'd left in Albion. In libraries, everyone talked softly, a bit stiffly, which suited her fine. She liked pictures that stood still. Her father had subscribed to magazines, the Saturday Evening Post and Collier's, big magazines with big pictures. Kate always headed for the art section of the downtown public library on Hope Street. Hope. That was easy to say. Whenever she said it, she'd see that library, solid, sitting there at the end of Hope Street, with enough art books to take care of her for years. She liked the library, and she could bear the ocean. The ocean was constant and patient, though startlingly powerful. On Sunday afternoons, Audrey and Kate and a few of Audrey's friends, other typists from the West Coast Sportswear office, would go to the beach, whatever the weather. The friends were new to LA too and ready to be swept off their high-heeled feet by the exotic. They'd drive along Wilshire Boulevard all the way to Santa Monica or along Sunset just to see the palms and citrus trees, admire actual lemons growing right there in front of them. Even at Christmas time, one of them would invariably say, lemons in December. Anything could happen. These grown-up ladies, Vinnie and Flo and Helene, would bring Kate gifts, simple vials of cologne, tiny candy store boxes with 4 plump chocolates in them, a fresh hibiscus blossom. Flo would pin the flower in Kate's hair with 2 crossed bobby pins and say, there, a real Dorothy Lamour.
Hello. I really appreciate being invited today to read and to feel Holly through her words. I haven't listened to her poetry out loud for a long time. So I appreciate all of your readings, your choices. And I made a few choices myself of 2 short poems, one from Specific Mysteries, which really reminded me of Holly a lot. This one is called Rises in the Evening, More Daylight. The room fills with a weaving from Peru. Its natural dyes, its lavenders, uneven and beautiful, which is my planning, the last letter I'll ever write. Then my hand to my face to remind me of stubbornness. This face, it is a visit from a stranger, a visit from a sister. I give up the story that I was a happy child. Black wool diamond in the center with a stripe through it like sudden rain, pure grace, but paid for over and over if anything is to be whole, is to be colors purged from insects, squeezed from plants, applied to thread, combined with other thread, worked, then finished. Hour after hour, shape and weight and length, the handfuls of what I might have lived, what I do live. When someone says, "You're so serious," I think, not serious enough. There are so many imitations. This one is from These Mirrors Prove It, Mushroom Research. And by the way, the last line of this includes the name of the mushroom was A. virosa. So that's a botanical name that you hear in the last line and that you might not really notice when you're not reading it. Mushroom Research. The clouds today. So fat I could stare at them forever. I mean forever. Sky as earth and even farther underneath. Old underworld. The musky stairway down, then one quick breath and up again to flight and air. Imagination never settles on a definition of itself. A mushroom feeds or paralyzes. You take your chances every day. The mind is heaven, then that smell of fresh turned dirt, of graves. White lotus cloud or A. virosa, deadly joke. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm going to read from O Salt, O Desiring Hand. Wakes up. They say this is about coming into spiritual awareness. But I only think about morning, early morning, when the birds are silent, even the mockingbirds, beautifully noisy in spring, have no intention of working towards enlightenment. In this hot weather, neither do I. Although I like to sit up in bed, thinking God and goddesses and goddess bless us to be blessed. First thought, best thought, as Allen Ginsberg said, but he was Buddhist. With fine thoughts, I have just one. Bless us and be blessed. Then I feed the cats beef bits. I clamber into the shower, into soap and water. That's easy to feel blessed about. Other events are sadness. The recent deaths, Don and Harry's brother George, and earlier, my dear dead Andrea. But unenlightened, I can still believe in living spirit. So she's alive to me in the morning as I sit in the warm dark with my husband Harry curled next to me, thankfully, breathing and breathing. Religion keeps us from trembling at the brink. Every minute, while evil snaps its fangs, even at the birds, evil makes hot weather hotter. God and goddess bless us and be blessed. To which I often add, may divine love pour through us all. Divine love, even arriving as sweat, running along my achy neck is fine with me. Now from these mirrors prove it rather. Word rituals 15. The word folds its arms around a crippled dream. The word does not cry. The word says, there isn't much time. The word is awake now at this very moment. Then I'll end with Mariposa Avenue, the home of our souls, for those of us who were privileged to be around Holly. Mariposa Avenue, our oldest cat, he's breathing, then breathing. How is creation as large and as small as the gray and white cat we spent weeks once trying to find? He snoozes, pushes to my thigh. There is, all I can call it, it is presence, creating the room in this minute and then in the next, transforming atoms of breath into cat, into woman who asks, what shall we do, God? I wait a long time thinking. Here is our earth, children who wind explosives around their small waists, suicide, murder, the worship of blood. The blood god is thirsty and real, but so is the one I call God, who, if great mystery, is also great joy, creating this miracle cat. And the way I think, and our neighborhood, sun held in the curtains. I am waiting and asking, what is the space, God, between you and us? Today, I believe there is a moment like crossing the street, crossing spilled blood towards the promise that you are our witness and care. You want to be with us in finding the lost. You promised the word. Oh God, what word? What loud word can we say that is you?
Good seeing you guys. It's November, it's death, Paleolithic heart grief, long decayed, but once just flowers. Colder weather this afternoon, my yellow sweatshirt over my yellow t-shirt, wildflowers, grasses. We're entered by seed and ash, by blood pulse, the same as always, ever we don't stop mourning or decorating ourselves, our burials. Hello, Mother Ghost, your small diamond finger. Hello, dead dad, who hunted pheasants once a year. Such iridescent plumage. Winter solstice soon. I know because moon excites two coyotes who trot in our neighbor's yard across the street, while I stand with long sleep on my body, witness to everything that understands exactly how to live its inheritance of ears, muscle, snout. We are mammals together. There are children to be fed. There are families and strangers. Even those bushes hold our burrowing. Nothing is lost finally or wasted or unreliable. The changes come by eons, which gives time another meaning from live, die. It gives me nothing as fragile as hope, but rather that thought that I too forge along the street for whatever appeals to me, whatever I can overtake. And let's see, this from Esperanza, Poems for Orpheus. Ears that turn in every strong direction. Wild means only natural. means simply breast, drinking as in milk or wine and bread communion, and eating of the self. Home as burning as the ash, and yet the newest sprout. We leave a mother and a father. We hate ourselves, but there is no other way. Our ears are meant for rain, the pouring in of languages no one has ever understood. We love translations. This God's mouth spreads broad enough to crawl through. To taste him is to face the crossroads. To be the youngest girl alone, without her jacket or her dog. Then read from These Mirrors Prove It. Nothing is closed except all the doors. The oldest woman finds every color, her grapes, her orchard, and begs for less beauty. All instinct is to act without waste. When there's too much of anything, something says, go to nature. See what lives, see what is killed. Those of us who survive know our fruit and worms, the rapture. We will beg for age, our emptiness, our permanent vines. Sorry. No. And well, I'll just keep going. I'll read the whole book. How words are said, ferns, the earliest yet did not shrink to fossils, the excellence of string quartets, old wounds, even the scars I touch hurt, even friendship. I have given wounds myself, cello, the ferns, so much my language, eons, the earth in layers, each scar, another seed, on and on, the music, on and on. My hands, I do not want them any softer. Every pulse, the memory of every other pulse.
Thank you all for such a nourishing, poignant, and sacred, loving reading of Holly Prado's writing. It really was a blessing from all of you. Next Tuesday, we have two outstanding poets, Beth Ruscio and Corinne Topal. So thank you very much. And Jennifer, that's our show. So thank you very much.